Thank you. Good morning. So my name is, as you can see, Kirschniak, and as Professor Seifert already introduced me, my main passion quite now is to look at all the data we have and how we can use it to transform our world a little bit. So with this context, I was asked to go with this presentation I have to show you today into the space of the mobility services in the automotive industry. And what I'd like to do today is, if it works, to show you the results of a study that we are doing every other year with the world's top executives, CEOs. So we are interviewing more than 2,000 CEOs around any subject that will lead to change. Among these are a lot of executives in the automotive industry, in the tier 1 suppliers, and we have condensed the information out of this survey mainly on the point of what is happening to the automotive industry. That's what I'd like to present to you today. So the first fact, which I find very interesting and intriguing, mainly for the automotive market, that most of you and your CEOs are thinking that more than 30% of the total revenue in the industry will come out of new products and services, compared to 13% of these kind of new products and services that have been responsible for the turnover and revenue in the past. That means 2.3 more times new innovation that will drive the business in this area, which tends us to go into the service-based business models, and I will go into that a little bit deeper. So if you look at the automotive industry, you all know that it was all tied to the car. The ownership of the car was the most emotional thing that someone like me can experience sometimes. So driving a car was everything, and the main part of the industry was also harvesting this in terms of getting the main economic drivers in some countries, and more countries even as this country, are coming out of this passion to drive an automotive, to own an automotive, and to have the whole freedom of movement. Quite now, we are challenging these norms. That means that with what's happening in our economy, what's happening in the population, we're gaining more traffic. We heard about this morning very intensely. We have a population growth, and we have the climate pollution things that are contradictory to these kind of industry models. So what does that mean, and what are the forces that will influence our mobility desires, and what are the customers doing right now? You know that we have more than 2 billion people connected to the internet over Facebook. We have a global mobile explosion. That means really that we have already 5 billion mobile devices on the planet that connect themselves with each other. We're expecting to have more than 500 billions of the mobile devices connected in 2020. That's including the Internet of Things. That's not only with people, but this is a huge amount of information that's driving our economy. We have Facebook. I think we've talked about Facebook, and everybody's talking about Facebook. Facebook itself would be the size of the 3rd largest nation in the world, if you just take all these people together. We have the data explosions. Every 2 years, we are generating more data than all the data that has been generated until 2003. Including from all the past. So, and the next thing is we are getting, I would say, amplified. So what's happening? Everything is going with little small smart apps on the smartphones. So this is also a trend that we are expecting more than 77 billion mobile apps downloads until in 2014. So we asked our CEOs and our executives in all over the industries, who will be the contributor, the biggest contributor to adopt these kind of smarter urban ecosystems that are the result of these trends? So interestingly, and this is something I think Ms. Chase from Buscar would agree on that one, in the very first part, it's the service providers or service providers that are just emerging that will drive this change. Some of them think that urban government authorities will drive this change. But also still on the third, but whatever you see on the third part of that one, the auto OEMs, the automakers, are also in a driving position. If you compare the data, which is interesting, that this kind of drive is not so much appreciated or foreseen if you just look at the left on two little signs. The left one are the US and Europe and the emerging markets, and Asia is on the right-hand side. There's a clear feeling that the automakers' influence in Asia and in the emerging markets to this kind of change is much higher than what we expect in Europe and the US. The question is, why should automakers care? They are part of this ecosystem, and there's a change going on in this ecosystem. Quite now, the automakers model as a whole is mainly based on a retail single transaction model that goes on the purchase of a car, warranty, service history, and also finance packaging, upselling in these areas that are mainly transactional based over the dealerships. What has already happened is that through the social network and also to get more customer access and get more infrequent and limited transaction, everybody tries to use these kind of media like social networks, the internet, email, viral marketing, and other things to get more access to the customer base. What we're expecting and what's also happening quite now is that we go with mobile service models that will mainly answer the questions where to go, how to come there, and how to go there, and how to connect the information from the vehicle and the driver together in certain new business models. So we have a rapid developing network of information, enable the companies to know and understand the customer directly from an automaker perspective in a new way. Already very interesting, these are the numbers of new vehicles in a US chart. This is the US market, not the European market, that will come up. So the development of new vehicles and groups of vehicles that will be developed in the next couple of years. You see that there's an overwhelming percentage, a number of new models that will come out that are around electrified or the electrified vehicles or the small compact urban vehicle. So the traditional sports coupes and SUVs and vans have not really this kind of part of the future market share in the part of automotive development. So what does it mean? If you go with all these urban smaller vehicles, they have to be at lower costs, and that means in the end for the automaker less profit. There are two possibilities to overcome this kind of financial damage in terms of you have to sell more or you have to go into business model innovation. It will be all centered, that's what we heard from you, that's not an IBM position here, this is really what we heard from the CEOs, when we did our survey. It will be all about the connected vehicle. So this chart, I think you have seen that many times before in different aspects. Just want to go over it to address the points of view that will be possible with connected vehicles. And also, you can extend that. That's just an example. I think everybody will have another idea to add on that one. But what you can do with your car and what will be done in the car starts with productivity, things like email workflow, business applications. We'll have points on mobility, commerce, like pay-as-you-drive, road charging, EV charging, and P2P transactions. Information services, location-based or situation-based services like news, weather, and events. We'll have things like multimedia entertainment, which is already there with infotainment, pervasive gaming, and computer games, and so on. We'll have things in the emergency and safety area of the car, where you have stolen vehicle tracking, you have emergency assistance systems, and so on. We have the intelligent driving part of the automobile, which is around road warnings, driver status, and automated driving, and for sure traffic and navigation with all the things that are coming in this area. The question now is, that was interesting for us to survey, is what are the things that will be open and what are the things that will be tied more or less to the vehicle, and what are we expecting in this area? The survey showed us overall that only 41% of the systems from the perspective of the survey, from the questionnaire will be open and customized by smartphone apps. That's the overall percentage of CEOs and executives we asked. If you look at the automotive executives, they tell us 51% of all the things we were just talking about, the connected vehicle with all these things and subjects, will be driven with mobile apps in an open standard. And very interestingly here, that if you look at Japan and China, it looks like the openness of the system is not so much expected in this area, and it will be a much closer system in terms of what you can have as open standard, what will be shared by other companies. And in the US, it's a much bigger part where we expect a big part of the things that can be customized by mobile application, and that will be an open standard that are not tied directly to the vehicle. So that's a battleground for this kind of connected vehicle. You see that here we have tried to put this in a logical order. So we think that there are a lot of things controlled by the automakers in terms of the emergency and safety functions and intelligent driving. We think that there are a lot of things in the battleground for where new service companies can emerge and where new services will be done by new market players or existing market players in other ways, starting with productivity, application, information services, traffic and navigation, and multimedia and entertainment. For us, and from a point of view after the survey, I think the control point will be the mobility commerce thing. So where to pay your road fees and where to transact directly with your environment. Where will this be? And this will be the control point for the commerce and for the future application of mobile and connected services in the car. So you can bring this to the car in different ways. The easiest way is to build it in. That's the typical way quite now. A lot of things happened until now. The other thing is to bring your smartphone, to bring it into your car with all your data on it, with your personal life on your device, whatever you want. And the other thing is to use the cloud and to beam it into the car. So most obviously, these two things are the most common and the two options with the biggest likelihood. So what are the best options for automakers from this survey to develop mobility solution offerings? The first one is very obvious, the migration of the product portfolio to the electrified vehicle, but then we start with telematic solutions and also provide mobility as a service that includes things like car sharing solutions that should be brought in a mobile solution offerings from our study. And also you see here that we have some different viewpoints across the regions. So in the US and in Europe, this is the highest number. So it's even overwhelming the telematic solutions to bring mobility as a service to the people and to use mobility solutions in this way. In Asia and emerging countries, it seems not to be as high of an importance. The other thing is, and we heard about that one, that the interchangeability of vehicles is one of the things that the connected car services may bring to the auto market. What does it mean? We heard it this morning. We think it's a little bit more. So it's really the car that you need for a certain task and for a certain role has to be there and usable at the moment in time that you need it. And you bring all your stuff, that means your personalization of your car, with you in terms of using something like that, or using something like beamed-in services, like cloud services, that give you in your personal car the feeling to have all these things coming from settings, preferences, calendar, navigation, and stuff like that. So you have a personal bonding with this car. I think that's a big thing that can help to overcome the pure concept of car sharing and using something anonymous with using cars that have something like your little bit of personal identification, because I think a lot of us live in our cars, and this can help us to get into this mood again. To appeal to consumers, and I think we are pretty much in the iPhone world and in the Apple-dominated and Google-dominated world, we know that only that simple and comprehensive offerings will be adopted. So in the end, it could show us that maybe there is something like a daily vehicle, like something like a small urban vehicle that we can use for everyday work or something like that, or for everyday use. But there must be something like a subscription vehicle where you can use special tasks, where you can get something like special needs that you have and can satisfy them with getting into subscription model that comes with your car, or maybe with your service provider to get into that one. Beside the car, you have to connect the whole concept of a car and a vehicle to the mobility solutions that are already out there. That means urban traffic and bicycles and other and also far transit solutions. Together with that one, it would be nice to have something like a very simple and comprehensive solution to do all the payment and to have all the things around insurance, tolls, parking, security, connectivity, and so on together in such a package. And to do all that, it's very obvious if you put all these together in a sophisticated, comprehensive model that should be simple to use, that this has to be organized beyond the vehicle, that has to be organized and optimized against and across the modes and integrated in a cashless procedure that should not be complicated. So IT and service integration will play a major role in this area. So to come to some conclusions before I stop it, why do automakers have to care in this area? These new potential business models can be something that can be driven out of the automakers. You quite now own the emotional hotspot. You know you own the car. You know you own the technology. And we think from the study, what we heard from the study, that that's a very feasible point to also be the facilitator and the provider of services and to link to the other modes. And really to drive the control point of the commerce of transportation. So we think still that the car, and that's what we heard, is an emotional hotspot, is a bonding device. And if we use it as the car industry, together with the technology I was just describing that came out of this study, that could be something that's from a hotspot perspective unique and invaluable from this kind of offerings. So let me just wrap it up. The opportunity for the industry is exciting. I think there has to be an invest in new technologies and new business models that are mainly driven by the technology area. It makes a lot of sense to execute pilots, to develop pilots, to show that these things work, and to learn and to adopt that. I think there's no way you can plan very straightforward in the future. We will have a lot of new incumbents. We will have a lot of new technologies coming in that will change this road, and so there's no straightforward planning. So piloting, learning, and adoption is a very, very, very interesting and a very valid point here. And the definition of how to transform the connection to the customers through relationship-based services is key. If you put all that together, one of the quotes we got from one of the CEOs, in the next 10 years, we will have more change than in the last 50 years. So are you ready for that? Thank you.